It is March 10th, 2025, and a lot's going on in the world. We'll be talking about that on World Edition and all along those lines. Canada's Liberal Party chooses Mark Carney to succeed Justin Trudeau. So some people are asking who is Mark Carney. Apparently, he's the crisis handling former central bank governor and is now Canada's next prime minister. So that's something that folks are talking about in the news and all along those lines. Um, there's also information on Trump's eighth week in office to continue breakneck level of action and all along those lines. I think I'm going to get a cup of water, so we're going to get into a little advertisement, and I'll be right back.
One of the things that business owners forget a lot is to prepare for their own retirement.
Hi, my name's Nick Palavita, and today I'm with a very special guest, a certified financial planner, a chartered retirement plan specialist, and president of National Pension Partners, Max Couliet. Max, tell me what you do at National Pension Partners.
Well, Nick, we help successful small businesses and professionals put together retirement plans that provide them the maximum retirement benefits and big tax deductions at the same time.
Well, how do you do this?
Well, we get on an internet conferencing system with the client. We review their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then put together strategies to help them in implementing a retirement plan that benefits them, not everybody else.
Well, that sounds really good, but how much does this cost?
Well, it's really not bad because the first consultation is free. That allows us to go through and discover whether this strategy works for that business and for you as the business owner and helping you maximize your retirement.
Well, Max, how do we get this free appointment?
It's really pretty simple, Nick. You can either go to our website below or call us at 877-252-1692, and then we can set up a time with either myself, Nick, or one of our other retirement plan specialists, another CPA or advisor in the office, to go over this with you and make sure it fits for you.
Hi, my name is Lewis Haupt. I work with National Pension Partners, and I work with businesses to allow them to put the maximum away that they can for themselves and to save taxes.
Hi, I'm Brad Coyle, and I'm the brokerage manager at National Pension Partners. We're always analyzing plan fund choices in order to ensure the participant's success.
If you want more information on how we can help you and your business put more money away in a retirement plan than you ever thought possible, contact us at the website below or call us at 877-252.
Now back to the news and all along those lines. So definitely there's a lot going on. Trump's eighth week in office said to continue breakneck level of action, rallying the GOP to avoid a shutdown. And apparently Johnson is given a shutdown dare for Schumer. So it looks like some folks are asking, are we headed to a government shutdown this week? And some folks are wondering if this is something that will happen at the end of the week or not at the end of the week. A single engine plane crashes near a Pennsylvania airport, injuring 5 passengers. So we're having more incidents with planes and all along those lines. And immigration agents arrest a Palestinian activist who helped lead the Columbia University protest and all along those lines. So there's definitely a lot going on in the world, as I was saying, and we'll continue talking about that. Apparently there's a huge fire off of the English coast after an oil tanker and a cargo ship collided. So billowing smoke and fire after the oil tanker and the cargo ship collision in the North Sea. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. So we've had these ships collide with each other. And in Germany, hundreds of flights canceled as strikes hit airports. So German airport workers launched strikes and hundreds of flights have been canceled. So airport strike to all but freeze German air travel on Monday, which would be today. A one-day strike at 13 German airports, including the main hub, brings most flights to a halt, as I was saying. So it looks like they are in the middle of a strike. And a mob faked attack on Australian synagogue, according to police. Australian police say seemingly anti-Semitic terrorism incidents were really criminal con jobs to sow chaos. So fake plan to attack Australian synagogue fabricated by organized crime is what the police are saying in that area. So police say the Sydney's Darrell Caravan incident was a fabricated terrorist plot and not an actual terrorist plot. And hundreds have been reported killed in a sectarian violence in Syria's Alawite heartland. So Syrian government loyalists accused of executing civilians as violence erupts. So that's something we're seeing in the Middle East as well. And Syria announced the end of a military operation against al-Assad loyalists. And definitely a bane for tyrants abroad, according to NBR. U.S.-funded networks fear fate under Kerry Lake. So there's some folks that are fearing their fate under the direction of Kerry Lake. And Israel energy minister cuts off electricity to Gaza. That was reported on yesterday. So video shows Israel shutting off power to Gaza. Gaza electricity cut will only affect lone destination plant powered by Israel, according to their officials. And Ukrainian troops are trying to seize the initiative from Russia. Ukraine war map shows Russia's retreat on 3 fronts, and the UK intelligence report says Ukrainian counterattacks near Pokrovsk in the Donetsk Oblast region and all along those lines. So apparently, according to the New York Times, Russian forces are depleted and stalling on the Eastern Front is what Ukraine is saying. So we'll see how this all plays out. And of course, we do know that a number of people, including the president, are paying attention to this conflict and all along those lines. And Greenland will be voting on tomorrow on independence. So Greenland votes on March 11th. Independence was the key issue, but Trump looms over Greenland's elections. But apparently voters have other concerns in that particular area. So Greenland Prime Minister issues Donald Trump warning ahead of the election. So Greenland is to elect a new government as Trump coaxes and threatens. So apparently he's still trying to get Greenland along with Canada and some other territories as well. And the Pope following the Vatican's spiritual retreat from afar as he recovers from pneumonia. Pope had quiet night and continues to rest at Gemelli Hospital. And the government of the Vatican is too soon to discuss the Pope's return home. But Pope Francis pens prayer, thanking hospital staff as he shows mild improvements. And the U.S. dominates European weapon purchases, according to a report. America is the world's biggest arms exporter. Europe should definitely know that. And it looks like the Ukraine war has increased U.S. dominance of the global arms trade. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. And in Romania, a far-right candidate, Georgescu, has been barred from the election. So the pro-Russian candidate is to challenge the bar on Romanian presidential run. So Romanian bars ultra-national candidate from their presidential race. So we're definitely seeing that as well. And Russia is bombing bridges to cut off 10,000 Ukrainian troops in the Kursk. So that was over the weekend. Russia forces recapture villages in Ukrainian-held pocket inside of Russia, and Russia traps Ukrainian troops in the Kursk pincer movement. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. And in South Sudan, there are tensions there as well. The U.S. is ordering non-emergency staff to leave. U.S. orders non-emergency government staff to leave South Sudan as tensions grows over fighting. And SSPDF calls Machar allies back to work. And U.S. is ordering, like I said, non-emergency personnel to leave South Sudan amid escalated violence. And a White House envoy is to travel to Doha to push for a new Gaza deal. Trump envoy reveals Hamas proposes a 5 to 10 year truce with Israel during direct talks, and that was released earlier today. Israel negotiators are set to head to Qatar for hostage talks amid the Gaza aid cutoff. So that's something that we'll see seeing how this plays out as well. And Trump's tactics are leading Americans to question their role in the world stage. So Trump's deal making is all about him, according to Bloomberg, and Trump's transitional approach to diplomacy is a driving force on the world stage. So we've had several people on this network that have talked about his transactional nature. And the EU is pondering an 800 billion euro plan to beef up defenses to counter a possible U.S. disengagement. So the EU ministers are to discuss the joint borrowing for defense and use of existing funds. So definitely it looks like the EU will be playing a role in things as well. And irate liberals are threatening to impeach the prosecutor general after Yoon's release from prison and all along those lines. So definitely it looks like Yoon is, that's the South Korean impeached president, is freed from detention. But South Korea prosecutors are to pursue Yoon's conviction despite his jail release. And the Philippines says acts in national interest in South China Sea. So we've got things going on in the Philippines as well as Myanmar, because Myanmar has detained thousands rescued from a forced cyber scams. So Myanmar militias and scam syndicates are gambling to ride out the Thai crackdown and all along those lines. See who's joining me here in the newsroom over here on World Edition and all along those lines, and see what folks have got to say about things going on in the world, including the new leadership in Canada. So let me get to folks and see what else is going on. And all along those lines, I think I've got to a lot of the main stories. Secretary of State Rubio says purge of U.S. aid programs complete with, looks like they're saying about 83% of what they were going to do done, and all along those lines. So Marco Rubio announces cancellation of most U.S. aid programs and all in that way. So it looks like that'll be interesting to see how that plays on the international stage. And the U.S. Secret Service shoots an armed man near the White House after a confrontation. So the Secret Service shot an armed man in a confrontation near the White House on yesterday, and apparently he was brandishing a firearm in that area. I believe the president was out of the that D.C. area at the time of this incident taking place. And Alzheimer's research centers face Trump's imposed $65 million funding delay across the U.S. So that's one of the things that folks are talking about in the news in terms of health and all along those lines. And land, air, and sea search are underway for a college student from U.S. that is missing in the Dominican Republic. So there is a student missing in the Dominican Republic. And apparently Rubio and Musk were sparring with the Polish minister over Ukraine's use of Starlink. So Rubio takes Elon Musk's side in the fight with the Polish diplomat, just making things up and all along those lines. And Tusk calls for respect between allies after the U.S.-Poland spat over Starlink satellites. So lots going on in that way as well. So lots going on in the world, including a fighter jets again intercept an aircraft near Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. So NORAD intercepted aircraft flying in restricted zone above Mar-a-Lago in Florida. So F-16 jets scrambled, flares deployed to intercept planes flying near Mar-a-Lago, according to what NORAD said. And some people are wondering about a recession. So Trump's terrorists are raising a recession red flags. Recession risk rise for all three North America economies over U.S. tariff chaos, according to a Reuters poll. And NAHB secures lumber inclusion in delay of Mexican and Canadian tariffs. So we'll see what folks have got to say about this and all along those lines. And North Korea fires several ballistic missiles after the U.S. and South Korea were doing some training and all along those lines. They were doing some war games, and then North Korea fired several ballistic missiles. And in photos, Bloody Sunday marchers raised fresh civil rights concerns at Selma. So 60 years after Bloody Sunday, civil rights leaders in Selma continue the fight, and Selma marks 60 years since Bloody Sunday took place. So definitely a lot of people are even reflecting on what's going on in the world now and how it is impacting what was going on then as well. So like I said, there's a lot of things taking place in the world and around the world. So we'll just keep talking about those and see if any of our crew joined us and all along those lines. But so far, I know people are being very busy with activities they've got going on as well. Attorney General Sunday, the Foundation for Delaware County, announced that Crozar Health Systems deal is reached to keep Crozar Health Systems Hospital open in Delaware County for the immediate future. So Crozar Health Delaware's county hospitals get a short-term reprieve after a 6-hour meeting on Sunday. So that's something we're seeing in the news as well. And a teacher's body was discovered a month after her fiance found dead near his boat on a area around Georgia Lake and all along those lines. So a body of Atlanta teacher found 1 month after he disappeared with his fiance on Georgia Lake. So the Atlanta teacher's body was found a month after he disappeared on that lake, according to sheriffs in that particular region. and new deal is reached to end a wildcat strikes by New York prison guards. So I've got some folks, including one that I do a podcast with, that is in the New Jersey prison system. I don't think he's done work in New York, but he probably has some friends in that area. But striking New York correction officers are beginning return to work, and all along those lines, in the DOCCS, new agreement reached to return striking New York prison workers to work on this particular day, which is Monday. So we do have some people that are coming back to work and all along those lines. I see I've got Rick joining me. We'll see if anybody else comes into the
Hello.
as well. But how are you doing on this particular day? I was talking about the recession and all along those lines. And
Yeah,
all
I'm
yes.
just watching money evaporate. The NASDAQ is in correction territory, down more than 10% in the last month. And I just tweeted, who could have predicted that America's worst businessman, a guy who lost more money than any other American between 1985 and 2015, Mr. 6 bankruptcies, and America's worst president, according to multiple surveys of presidential historians, would tank the market. It's
Yeah, it's amazing. And I know that apparently there was a big rally over the weekend. And I know that even Jacoby has talked about the oligarchs and everything, but apparently Bernie Sanders, who we know is more on the left, he had thousands gather at his fighting oligarchy rally in Warren and all along those lines. So apparently he drew a capacity crowd in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and everything like that. So I've even hearing people that are going to these town halls that are not all that happy. And I think that I've heard that some of the Republicans have been told don't attend these town halls because you might get some harsh criticism. And I was even watching online where there were some people that voted for Trump that are regretting their votes, including some that have been laid off of their jobs and everything like that. So there might be some backlash to some of those folks that voted for Trump for whatever reasons they voted for him, but now are being directly impacted. So have you heard that over there in California?
Yeah, John Fetterman said, if you're cheering against Trump, you're cheering against America. So I don't want things to go to shit. I don't think anybody does.
Right.
But things went to shit under Trump historically. 2020 was one of the worst years in American history. Trump owns more bad days on the stock market than any other American in our lifetimes. And it's frustrating that the guy is president again for 4 more years.
Yep, 4 more years, and who knows, maybe he'll try to bend the law and everything. But apparently, Kristi Noem has tapped a new ICE leader and is, or leaders, I should say, and is moving to identify leakers. So I guess they are going to, DHS has begun performing polygraph tests on employees to find leakers. So apparently they've started giving lie detector tests to employees to try to find ICE raid leakers and all along those lines. So I guess they're trying to find the folks that are leaking out about the raid so that the raids can continue, because I know we have not obtained as many people as we thought we were going to obtain.
Kristi Noem is another freaking idiot who is in over her head, most likely. She's not even permitted. As governor of South Dakota, she was not permitted to enter 1/8 of the land on her state because 8 Indian tribes, Native American tribes, had said, you're lousy and you're not allowed on our land. She's...
well, speaking of people that I know a lot of us focus on and their work don't like, but apparently yesterday, HHS, which is, I think, under the leadership of Robert Kennedy, made a $25,000 buyout offer to most of its workers as they are trying to get folks to voluntarily separate. I know there have been other departments that have done that as well, but apparently the Federal Health Agency offered $25,000 employee buyouts, and of course that's got ramifications for the millions of Americans that depend on this organization for their health needs and everything. So what is your thoughts about this notion of them giving $25,000? And if you were working for HHS, would you take the $25,000 buyout?
It's not, if you've worked there 10 years, I mean, that's not the best frickin' buyout. It's a little contemptuous. And what's going on here? So we may not have a flu vaccine for next winter. after this winter, where flu has killed 65,000 Americans, which is the worst season for flu in 15 years. Normally, flu kills 15 to 30,000 Americans in a flu season. It's more than double, and that's due to, well, some of it's due to vaccine resistance. I don't love RFK. He's supposedly going to make our food healthier. But you can make healthy food choices, but if you can't get vaccinated, you can still frickin' die, especially if you're a senior. I'm sure flu kills more seniors than it does people under 65.
Yeah, I mentioned that's true and everything. There's a southern state that may not be all that glad with Trump either, because one of the stories I was reading said that Alabama gained $3.7 billion off of U.S. aid to Ukraine, and now Trump has hit pause on that. So I guess that lovely state of Alabama will not be getting all of that money that they had been getting. And
So
there are several military bases around that area.
3/4 of the money that Congress has allocated for Ukraine goes back to the states in the form of purchases of weapons manufactured in America. And often it's obsolete weapons that the U.S. military doesn't use anymore. So we offload our obsolete weapons. The manufacturers, now that the weapons are depleted, get work making new weapons for America. I know that California, from the Ukraine money, has received close to $750 million for our industry. And I'm sure, California is probably number one because we've got the biggest population, but most states have received Ukraine funds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely the case. You're over there in Los Angeles. One of the other stories that I didn't get to, but I was curious whether you were impacted or not, because I've been through one. Yeah, we do have them here in North Carolina every once in a while. I might have been through a few. They're not all that common, but seismic tremors are throughout the country. They're not just in California, even though y'all are more known for them. And apparently yesterday there was a 4.1 magnitude earthquake that jolted the LA area. So I just wondered when you were walking around, did you get hit by this earthquake?
We didn't feel it, but we heard it because we were standing in our kids' room and the windows started rattling, and we didn't know whether it was wind or an earthquake. Turned out to be an earth. We're having a swarm of them. Or the earthquake's over 3.0 on the Richter scale. We've been having dozens and dozens of them over the past few weeks. And
that's what they were saying, because they said that Malibu has become a hotbed and everything like that. So apparently y'all have getting a lot of them around Malibu. Maybe the earthquake.
Yeah, they've all been. They've been pretty local. Within a couple. They're about a mile deep where the Earth's crust is moving around. But then you go up and you're right in like North Hollywood or Burbank or wherever. The closer you are, the more you feel it.
That's what they were saying, because they said the region has been experiencing a number of moderate earthquakes since 2024. In all of 2024, Southern California experienced 15 seismic sequences with at least 1 magnitude 4 or higher earthquake, according to account by seismologist Lucy Jones, a Caltech research associate, and that's the highest annual total in the last 65 years, surpassing the 13 seen in 1988. So y'all have seen an uptick.
Yeah, and it's nervous making because we're overdue for a big one of 8.0 or more along the San Andreas, which is our main fault. And it turned the longer, so you have these plates, these tectonic plates that the Earth floats on over the molten stuff underneath, and they're like zippers. And the longer the length of the fault that lets go and slips, the bigger the earthquake. You can have just a little local one and it doesn't do anything. But if a big expanse of the fault line lets go, then you have a huge shaker. And we're supposed to have a big one every 30 years. And I don't think we've had a big one along the San Andreas in like 50 or 60. So yeah, it's nervous. Like 10 years ago, when I had a good job and could afford to do it, we added structural steel to our house because the last big earthquake we had, we didn't live in this house then in 94, but this house had the hell pounded out of it because we're right at the edge of the San Fernando Valley. Sorry about all, used to be a lake, 2 million years ago, and it slowly filled in with silt. So now it's like jello, and we're right at the beach. Like across the street from us is rock. That part is fine, but we're on silt, and when a big earthquake hits, it just shakes the hell out of our side of the street.
Oh, wow. Well, I did see that there was also a case. I was hoping Nick was going to be joining us, but I know he's been dealing with health issues and everything. But there is apparently a free speech challenge in California and Colorado that's going ready to come up in the news as well. And I'm guessing that folks are wanting to be able to speak about a number of things. And apparently this one is going to involve conversion therapy. So that is what is being talked about. And I know that whether
pray away the gay.
Huh?
Pray away the gay.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
The idea that if you take somebody who's gay and you Christ them all up enough that they can turn and be attracted to people of the opposite sex. And if you've seen people who've been through the therapy and claim it works, they are like some of the world's biggest closet cases. I mean, it's fine if you want to pretend that you're straight when you're not, and be in a marriage with somebody of the opposite sex, and have weird sex where you're banging a woman but you're fantasizing about guys. That's your right, but to force it on other people is bullshit.
Yeah, but wasn't that one of the conversations that even went on during the AIDS crisis, where there was a number of people that were living their life? There was a term for it, but they were basically undercover, so they were being
on the down low.
On the down low, thank you. That was what I was looking for. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, they Kinsey, it was the sex survey guy of the 1950s, shows that there's a continuum that from all the way straight to all the way gay, most people aren't at either extreme. So, the frickin' some people who are in straight marriages, will, I guess, enjoy, the occasional cock.
Yeah, then they might enjoy one thing or another. But apparently the Supreme Court is taking up the challenge to your area, or one of your areas, because it's the Colorado conversion therapy ban. So the case raises the question of whether state bans violate the free speech rights of therapists who counsel people to change their sexual orientation.
It should be banned. It's banned in California. It's banned in a lot of other progressive states. It doesn't work, and it just makes people miserable. It makes people live in shame. It tortures kids who get, a kid comes out as gay or is caught, making out, a 15-year-old boy is caught making out with some other boy. And super Christy parents ship the boy off to one of these frickin' beat the hell out of you until you're not gay anymore camps. And they don't work, and they suck.
Well, it'd be interesting to see. Maybe Sasha and Toby got some ideas on this, but apparently the justice took up an appeal brought by Kelly Childs, a Christian therapist who argued that the restriction violates her free speech rights under the Constitution's First Amendment. So, favored by some religious conservatives, the practice is aimed at encouraging gay or lesbian minors to change their sexual orientations and transgender children to identify as the gender identities assigned to them at birth. And wasn't that one of the executive orders where apparently we only have two genders, male and female? There's none of this other folks, according to what President Trump has put out there.
Yeah, forget the intersex kids who were born with a penis and a vagina, and they don't exist anymore. And Kelly Childs, whoever the hell she is an asshole.
And we'll see what other folks have to say. But yeah, apparently she's got clients who are Christians, some of whom have questions about their sexual orientation and gender identity amid concerns that they are unable to live their lives in accordance with their faith and everything. So I guess that they are concerned that they are living a life contrary to what their faith journey tells them and everything like that. So I guess that's what her argument is. I'm not like you, I'm not quite buying it, but that's what her argument is and everything like that. So what is y'all's take on that, Jacoby and Sasha and everything? And also I know that tomorrow we'll be talking about Ukraine and Russia, because it looks like there are been some very serious actions taken on both sides. And now we've got this tit for tat conversation going with Trump as to whether we will actually have peace this week or this month, for that matter.
Mark, quick question. You said both sides are making very substantial moves. What moves are you aware of made by Russia?
Well, apparently Russia tried to, talked about that before you came on, Sasha. Apparently Russia was reclaiming some territory that they had lost and everything like that. That's what the news report said and everything. And then Ukraine had made some counterattacks as well. So I'm just going by what was reported on NBC and some of the other networks. But they did say that they were reclaiming some land that they had lost.
Are you aware of any moves toward the peace from Russia?
No, and like I said, that's part of the conversation as to whether they will be moving toward peace. Trump is saying that he even made some statement to the fact of both sides need to come to the table or something like that. And I'm not thinking that they are even trying to come to the table. But then, as you have said, they might be in Trump's corner or Trump in their corner, because I think you.
First of all, Trump is lying through his teeth. If Ukraine is agreeable to have at least participate in peace talks, but there is no Russia. There is no indication that Russia is willing to do a peace talk. The latest signals from Russia are there will be no concessions whatsoever. There will be absolutely no change in Russian position. So how Trump has nerve to continue these negotiations where one side he made to agree almost to anything, and the other side wouldn't make a single, even minuscule concession. What kind of negotiation is this?
Yeah, the negotiations for a while haven't made any sense and everything. But like I said, I think that Trump is being friendly with his good friend Putin and trying to figure out a way to get Putin out of the situation that he created himself. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if Rick or Jacoby agree with me, but I would say that he is trying to bail his friend out of a bad situation that his friend created.
You're not trying to bail his friend out. The term you're looking for, Mark, is extortion. Okay. This is what that term is. It is not a negotiation. It is extortion. Then on top of that, he's trying to gift. That's the term, not bailout. Gift his good buddy or his actual boss, Ukraine. He's already taken away the U.S. intelligence. He's taken away all the arms stuff, the backing. He's been working for Putin for a while. This just shows it.
No, Jacoby, I think it's a grand plan of Trump is to gift Ukraine to Russia, gift Taiwan to China, and become buddies with both Putin and Emperor Xi, and have rule the world. And a little Zelensky is in his way right now. He's now working very hard with Putin to replace Zelensky. First of all, they succeeded to not to have Zelensky at negotiation table right now in Saudi Arabia. He is there, but he is not participating in that. So that's a small thing, but still significant. And second of all, they are now talking to different people who could be Zelensky's vis-a-vis in the election, if there will be one. And Americans are doing what they usually do in different countries all over the world for the last 60 years, is talking to different people, try to shake the existing regime and then replace it and have some phony elections here and there. That's what Americans are doing, really. So there is nothing new about that.
Well, speaking of that,
so Trump has the opportunity to do something good. In an interview with Maria Bartiromo, Trump said that nuclear weapons are a greater risk to the world than climate change. And since he's buddies with Putin, they could get together and the U.S. and Russia each have 1,700 active or near active nuclear warheads and another 3,000 in storage that could be brought online. Though there would be no point, because if you use your first 1,700, the world is dead and gone. But since he's buddies with Putin, and Putin said nuclear weapons are also said they're dangerous. So why don't they get together as friends and see about reducing America's nuclear stockpiles further? Each country used to have 6,000 active nuclear warheads, and we knocked it down to 1,700 over the past 30, 40 years. We could knock it down further, which you want, especially since AI is destabilizing.
Hey, Rick, Rick, you're expecting logic and everything, because this is the same Trump that recently got upset at Keir Starmer and King Charles for inviting Zelensky to England and everything, because he's basically saying that I guess anybody could get an invitation because he was feeling very special and everything, and then because he got invited, Zelensky now he's feeling like he's less special and everything. So
it's not even that, Mark. It's not even that. And it's not, we keep saying the term friends. It's not really friends. When you pretty much bow down and kowtow to anything that somebody else is saying, that's not a friendship thing. That's an idolization thing. That's somebody you either work for or idolize. And that's where we are right now. And that's what Trump is doing anytime he talks to Putin, because Putin has his oligarchs behind him and all that money that he wants. Same thing with Xi. But the thing what you're talking about, Rick, that that's never going to happen. Why? Because in Trump's first term, we had a nuclear arms deal that was doing that. Trump tore that nuclear arms deal up. So we're not going back to that unless Putin wants to go back to that, because Trump is never going to push that. He's never going to ask for it and never going to try. This whole idea where he even said, well, to get Russia to the table, we're going to push sanctions on banking and stuff like that. That's a lie. He's never going to do that. So Trump's not going to do it.
Well, Trump does want the Nobel Peace Prize. He keeps making noise that he deserves that for all his efforts. If he really wants the Nobel Peace Prize, he would reduce nuclear stockpiles.
But the thing is, Rick, I agree. He wants that. Hence the reason why he's trying to shut Zelensky down, do all this extortion of Ukraine. He wants to shut Ukraine up. And if he can do that, he feels he can have peace, but he doesn't realize that Putin wants Ukraine. So if he can shut Zelensky up, maybe even this is the scariest part, because remember, Zelensky's in a war zone, has been under attack since day one. They've been trying to take him out. Well, now you take away the intel, you take away all this other stuff. Now what about the extra protection around Zelensky? And that's the scary part, is that now Trump is still pushing to get this man out of there so he can say, okay, well, now Russia take over this. Look at the peace that I brought. No, you didn't. You just really just assassinated a guy. And then on top of that, basically created a situation where now these individuals are either going to be submissive or killed off. You didn't do anything. You created genocide in a different way.
Yeah, that's definitely what could happen and everything. Hey, Sasha, getting off of Ukraine just for a minute and everything, but something that I would brought up with Rick, and I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on this. Are we heading toward a recession and everything? Because a lot of people are saying we're heading toward a recession and possibly even a depression and everything like that. And if so, what should we do to prepare for it and everything like that? Because I've heard a lot of people that are speculating that the economy is getting worse and it's definitely not as good as people were projecting, even though that's what he ran on, was improving the economy. So are we heading toward a recession? And if so, when will it hit?
Okay, if you own stocks in your portfolio, sell everything. Just sell it. Don't even look at the prices or bid and ask or so on. Sell at the market every single stock. Once you have cash on your account, then you're thinking it's much clearer than you have losing position and you're doing, oh, maybe it will reverse, maybe I will be able to sell at better prices and so on. You're not selecting promising position. You are fighting gloom and doom, and you will lose even more money as a result. So first of all, sell everything, generate cash. Then look at the sectors which could most likely avoid recession. Of course, there will be recession if it's not already there. That's obvious, and this is all Trump inflicted recession. There is no reason before his election for U.S. to go into recession at all. There was no reason.
The NASDAQ, as Sasha pointed out on Friday, is already in correction territory, down more than 10%.
Will go much lower.
It's down another 2% today.
Oh, wow. It's down another 2% today. Well, James Carville, we all know.
Remember, I just add one thing. For market to reverse, there must be capitulation. If there is no capitulation, market will continue to go down. People will be hanging for their stocks, or maybe tomorrow it will go higher. So they will washed with the margin calls. It will be complete devastation. So the sooner you give up, the better, the more money you will be able to save. And then there will be rebound, of course, sooner or later. You don't have to be a genius to understand that. But how low the market will go. Look, okay, a lot of people like Tesla stock. Okay, in Canada, there is 100% tariffs on all Tesla products, period. So Tesla is no longer being sold in Canada. Now I've seen picture in US, in New York, where people are coming in their Tesla cars to Tesla dealership and offering their cars for sale, which is legal. I mean, who can prevent that? And they're saying, I'm sorry to bought Tesla earlier, and I'm not in a position to drive this car any further. But this is just a small example. Canada has near completion and giant liquefied gas facilities. And there are already agreements with China and with Europe for Canada to deliver this liquefied gas, replacing a huge portion of US liquefied gas, because Canadian is cheaper. It's the routes to deliver are much better than from US. And Canadians are very flexible about the contract agreements, so there is no penalties that a country will take 1 year more gas and the next year less gas and so on. And the Americans are very restrictive. They impose a quota on each country to buy minimum quantities of this liquefied gas every year. Canada is not doing that. So Canada will get a substantial market share. So on all over the fronts, US is on the losing side. There is absolutely no single Trump's statements or actions or just anything that could benefit United States of America. None. Zero.
Yep. I know that I was saying. Go ahead.
Tesla hit a high of $480 a share in December, 4 months ago, 3 months ago. Now it's worth less than half that. It's down 8.5% today.
It will go much lower, trust me. Way much lower than that.
Yeah. I don't know what its PE, but it's probably still has, here it is. It has a PE ratio of 117, which shows that it's still wildly overvalued.
It's a price per earning ratio, which means price is the price of the stock, as you see now, and earnings, it's how much company makes profit. Earnings, which means the revenue. So if you trade at 100 times, so your price is 100 times more than your revenues and your earnings, this you have to run away from this stock. Really run away.
Now, Sasha, because we're actually coming close to that area, what's the cutoff? I forget what the line is where they shut down the stock market just because it's in free fall.
Oh, I think it's on S&P.
Because S&P is sitting right now at 600 below.
But no, it's not a point. It's percentage. It's 3 or 5% a day that the market would close 2 or 3 hours. And if it's farther 3 to 4 or 5%, I don't remember which one, then it will be shut for a day and then will reopen next day, something like that. So it's kind of a protective measures. What's happening is that you see how it works. Okay, here is a stock. Here is its price. Now, a lot of people, for example, bought at higher prices, and normally majority of people, I don't do that, but majority of people, they put stop loss, which is prudent thing to do. In fact, the reason I don't do it, it's a different. So if you have stop loss, so let's see, you bought a stock, let's say Goldman Sachs, you say you bought it at 600. So you hope that it will go to 700 to 1,000 share, you'll make a lot of money. However, what's happened if the stock goes down? So the great William O'Neill, he suggested 7% mandatory stop loss. So the stock is losing 7% out without even thinking. First sell and then think about whether it's a good stock and how the company is well doing or so on. First sell. So 7% of 500 is isn't it $35? So stock from 600 moved to 565, you're out. Stocks today trading at 530 something, 37, 537. So you would save yourself a lot of money by following William O'Neill's rule. You sell, and then you start thinking. But you have to press the button sell. If you don't press the button, stock will continue to go lower. So now we will sell at 8% loss, 10% loss. Now it's what? Now it's 10%? No, it's more. It's 12% loss. So you have to be very disciplined. You have to sell. 7% loss, sell. And then think whether it's a good stock, or maybe you will buy it again at much lower prices. That will also save you a lot of money. If you sell at 565 and you can buy now, okay? Can you buy now at 540 or so? So you already make $25 difference between these prices. It's your money. That's how you make.
No, that makes a lot of sense. One of the other things I mentioned earlier, and I watched a report a couple of days, well, actually yesterday, James Carville, who is the great Democratic strategist and who's worked for a number of candidates, including, I believe, Clinton and a number of others as well. He's had this notion, I'd love to hear Rick and Jatovi's, but definitely if you want to jump into Sasha as well, that as we're preparing for a possible government shutdown, that the Democrats should basically just sit on their hands and watch things implode, because he's of the impression that that would be a better strategy. And he was actually talking to Cuomo. That's the interview I was watching, him and Cuomo. So what is our thoughts about this notion that maybe the Democrats just need to watch the Republicans self-implode?
The Democrats have a history of bailing out the Republicans.
Right. And that's what he's saying, that they shouldn't do this time.
It does a huge amount of damage if you let the U.S. run out of money. People don't get paid. It costs tens of billions of dollars, and then it wipes out maybe $1 trillion in shareholder value as the whole country and the world freaks out. So yes, strategically, maybe the Democrats should let the Republicans flounder, but the Democrats don't, because they don't want to wreck the world.
It's I would say James Carville is right, but they better have the messaging for it. Right. Because what ends up happening, take for example, I mean, the State of the Union as a prime example. Mm-hmm. What they should have done was all stood up, all walked out as one, and then gotten outside and then held a press conference. And then from that point, then send everybody out. Let Trump keep on talking on his State of the Union stuff. That didn't happen. Then on top of that, one of the biggest things where I thought they did fine, and it became a messaging situation, was with when Trump used that little black kid as a prop. Mm-hmm. the messaging from the Republican Party was, oh, you couldn't stand up for a kid with cancer and all this other stuff. The Democrats at that point should have put out, okay, well, when are you going to stand up for the kids that you just cut all the cancer funding for? And just really hammered that point home, but they didn't. They kind of walked away and tried to play with it and all this other. They didn't really stand on those. And that's the difference right now. So what James Carville is saying is right. Yeah, that's what they should do. They should sit back. They should sit back and say, hey, look, you voted for this. I gave you a different option. You didn't want me. You didn't want my help. I tried to help you. I did all I could. I gave you a plan. I gave you all this. But we're going to sit back. This is what you wanted. Now you have the opportunity now. If you want something different, we can talk. We'll work through it. But no, this is what you want. You got to eat your medicine. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to let the world burn because this is what you asked for.
Well, one thing what Democratic senators and representatives could do is to appeal to their Republican counterparts and say, well, look, we're in the same boat. And this con man, this criminal, drives our country in abyss with horrible recession. We are gonna all lose in next election, all our seats, and no Trump will help you to keep your seat, baby. You just have to understand, either you will get rid of this idiot or you will go into, if not recession, could be even depression, like a D word, and you will lose all your seats, you will lose all your $200,000 salary, you will lose your free parking at the Dallas airport, you will lose, babies, everything, okay? We are not going to bail you out. You will, that's all what you created, and now you will eat it. That's the message.
And see, I would, and then on top of that, where the F around and find out people are now finding out and they're out there protesting and upset, I would go directly to them. I would bring them. I'd say, hey, look, we're in the same boat. I got no power. You got no power. You can help me. I'm trying to work with you, but let's figure this out together, because once time comes around, yeah, let's take their seats away. They didn't do anything to help you. I would play just like the Republican Party plays on that anger, that angst, that fear. That's the way they win every single time, and they have a great message at doing that, and they've tapped into that. Right now, the Democrat Party, yeah, let it burn. You didn't want me, but I'm as frustrated as you are. Let's go out and let's talk.
You know that Republicans stopped holding their town hall meetings. So the Democrats, they have to double their efforts, bring people. Now, normally when you're in politics, you don't want to badmouth the other party because in your district you have some people who vote for another party or so on, so you don't want to upset really that much. But now with what Trump's doing, Democrats can seize the moment and explain people that we are all suffering because of the Republican Party and its leaders. Let's save us ourselves, and this way they can start building next wave for the election in a year and a half.
And Sasha, that's a great idea. I'd be the first one. Hey, Republican Party can't. He, like the dude that walked out of that one, I would have walked right in. Okay, he's not going to listen to you. I will. Let's talk. And so exactly. That would have built that. That's how you got to build it.
And you will see that a lot of Republican voters will join these meetings, and they will understand what's going on.
They're already joining the meetings because you already see in town halls, whether it's in Vermont or other places where the Republicans are frustrated. That was one of the other things that I saw on one of the, I think it was a YouTube reporter and everything like that. But there were several people that had voted for Trump and were caught flat-footed, because there was one lady that was a government worker and was one of those workers that was laid off. So she was sitting there going like, this is not what I voted for. I was not expecting it to hit me and all along those lines. But she found herself being the victim when she thought it was going to be, as I think Jatopia said several times, those other people that would be impacted and not necessarily impacting my situation. But she found out that wasn't the case and everything like that. So it's just fascinating in that sense. I know we're going to wrap up in everything. I just have a quick question, and this is a health related issue, and it comes to Rick and everything, because There's a report coming out of England and everything, and I know that your daughter was there. I don't know if she's still there and everything, but they are telling people to check their toilet paper when they go to the loo or the bathroom and everything, because apparently in that area of the world, and somebody went to TikTok to reveal that tiny marks often seen on public toilet paper are made by drug users who are cleaning their dirty needles. So apparently this is a health crisis that is going on in that part of the world because people are cleaning them in a public place and leaving those marks. So they're telling people to be careful because you don't want to get an infection that kind of way. So just wondering if that's something that even your own child had told you about, because apparently this is a TikTok warning that went out there.
My kid used to live in Hackney, which is called the Murder Mile, which is a rough part of London, but she's since moved to Ted Lasso land, which is a much nicer place. So I feel like that, you know, she can wipe her butt with much more confidence now than when she lived in, you know, because London is this huge city that stretches for, 40 miles across. And, like all the mega cities of the world, Mexico City, all these cities that are the size of entire states like Rhode Island, there's going to be good places and there's going to be frickin' places that are kind of dicey.
Yeah, no, definitely. And speaking of Mexico, as we get ready to get out of here, apparently some of the drugs were being smuggled in a very unusual way. Jacoby, I know that you have kids and everything along those lines, but apparently some of the drugs were being smuggled through Pringles, which is a brand of potato chips. So that was something else that I had seen recently as well. So I guess people are using any method to get their drugs across and all along those lines. But definitely I did see that Pringles is a way that some of the cartel is shipping their drugs.
Okay. The S&P is now down, or the NASDAQ is down 700 points.
Oh, wow. So are we going to hit 800 points and everything? And by the way, I did see that they have listed the countries that you don't want to visit and everything. So apparently they released that earlier today. The level 4 ones do include ones that you would expect, like Sudan, Ukraine, Russia, and a number of others. So apparently they did name the countries that they are not wanting Americans to go visit at this particular time. You got any plans to go to any of those countries? Because they were mostly troubled countries and all along those lines. So they were countries that were facing different issues and everything like that. So it'll be fascinating to see what goes on with this whole S&P and everything. Because I am worried. Everybody talks about a recession and they think that a depression can happen, but you're the one that's more scholarly, Rick, and everything. So I know that we're concerned about a recession, but is a depression possible?
As all this shit happens, you're going to get some great vacation values. If you want to take a cruise for $80 a night, that's coming up. Like in 2020, I'm sure you could have booked a cruise, a 7-night Caribbean cruise for probably $500. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so as shit hits the fan, look out for bargains.
But this is for both of you, and then we'll get ready to get out of here. I know we got economics. Will we ever face a Walton's depression? Because everybody always talks about a recession.
No, because it's the Waltons. All they could do is if they could get 10 cents together for a dime, they could go to the movies. And they never showed the Waltons going to the movies. They lived in the woods in a house that needed painting and stuff. But now our depression, everybody will have if we have a depression, everybody will still have their iPhones. Everybody will still have flat screen TVs. So we'll be poor as shit. We won't be able to afford to eat much, but at least we'll be entertained.
We will be entertained as I get ready to go out. I did talk on the Latin show that we do. One of the co-hosts of that show is a banker, and she suggested, because of the fact that we're getting ready to lose pennies and pennies are about to be obsolete, that everybody roll up their pennies. So if you got pennies, I know I've got probably several hundred, maybe even a couple of thousand laying around here, that you roll them up and head to the nearest bank and deposit them, because pennies are about to be obsolete. So, Madeline Garcia, who is a part of that K Pasta Mohair show, said, roll them up and head them to your bank, and all along those lines.
Well, they're not going to make it so we can't take pennies to your bank.
No, that's what she was saying. She was saying,
no, they did. They did that with European money. Like when the euro became the coin all across Europe, you had a limited amount of time to turn in your currency and your coins before they went to zero. And like, because we were cleaning out after my parents died, we found a big tin of foreign coins. It's like this, these are old coins. They have to be worth like hundreds of dollars. And then no, they're worth zero.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to get on out of here and everything, but we'll have some more conversation on the economic show, which should be taking place right about now, and the media show, which will be coming our way at noon and everything. And of course, we've got other shows coming out through the course of the day. So we'll catch y'all on the flip side.